I'm a 31-year-old female and my husband is a 36-year-old male. We have two boys, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. My husband works in an office and has the option to work from home a few days a week, but he prefers not to because he says it's easier to focus in the office. I run a small business from home. I don't have a lot of daily work, just some emails and planning, maybe 3 hours a day, but the business does make about a third of our household income. However, my younger son is home all day, and dealing with him alone requires a lot of energy. He's very high energy and will probably break something if left alone for an hour. Then the older one comes home at 3, and both of them are with me until 8 or 9, which is when my husband usually comes home. A few days ago, I was really tired and didn't make dinner. When my husband came home, I asked him if we could just order something. We were both tired and ended up snapping at each other. He said I should have at least ordered before he got home and he was hungry. I said I forgot, and it's not fair that food is always my problem. He said that I'm home all day, and I even admit I don't have much work to do, so I'm basically a stay-at-home mom and should at least take care of dinner. I said he has no idea how much I do every day, and he said he'd handle the kids for an entire day while also working from home just to prove it should be easy for me. I said sure, so he made the arrangements to work from home yesterday. I slept in, and when I woke up, he was already frazzled from getting the older one ready for school. He ended up having to cancel a meeting to make breakfast and was worried about that. Then when he took another meeting later on, the boys went out to play in the yard and got super muddy and left footprints all over the house, which he then had to mop, and I didn't help at all. By this point, I did feel sort of guilty because it was definitely harder for him to take care of work at the same time, but all I wanted was an apology. He said he was doing this to show that I do nothing all day, and if he just admitted he was wrong, I would have helped out straight away. Later on, he had another meeting, and he told the boys not to bother him for an hour. But about 20 minutes in, they got in an argument about something, and our younger one went into my husband's room to complain. He was really loud, and my husband's video was also on. Then he told the kid to leave him alone, but he was upset and crying and wasn't listening. After a few minutes, my husband went back to the meeting and apologized to the other people. When it was finished, he was really angry at me. He said I could see what was happening, and I just watched him struggle without helping. I said all he had to say was, "Please help." He said I shouldn't be so petty and prideful. This probably made him look a bit stupid in front of his manager, but it was only a few minutes, and I don't think it was the huge deal he made it out to be. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, you're not the jerk. He said he was doing this to show that I do nothing all day. Automatic jerk energy there. He was really angry at me. He said I could see what was happening, and I just watched him struggle without helping. What you could see was what your day-to-day life is like, just staring at him for a change. He said I shouldn't be so petty and prideful. Look who's talking. Comment 2. Him saying you can see him struggling, but you did nothing is the whole problem. He sees you struggling and does nothing to help take things off your plate. He piles more stuff onto it. Maybe you could have helped out during the meeting, but honestly, I say you're not the jerk. When he calms down, point out that he experienced a fraction of what you have to handle on a daily basis. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks so much for all the comments and support on my last post. It's been a tough few months since then, and I really appreciate you all being there for me. So where do I even begin? I guess I'll start with what happened right after my last post. My husband and I had a long talk that night, and we both agreed that we needed to make some changes. He promised to try and be more understanding of how much work it is to take care of the kids all day, and I promised to communicate better when I'm feeling overwhelmed. For a little while, things were actually going pretty well. My husband started coming home earlier a few nights a week to help with dinner and bedtime, and I made more of an effort to get some work done during the day, so I wasn't as stressed in the evenings. We even managed to have a date night for the first time in months, and it was really nice to just spend some quality time together. But then about a month ago, something happened that threw everything off balance again. I was going through some old boxes in the garage, trying to clear out some space, when I found a letter addressed to my husband. It was from his ex-girlfriend, the one he dated right before we met. I know I shouldn't have read it, but I couldn't help myself. And what I found inside was shocking. Apparently, they had been in contact again recently, just as friends. But the letter made it clear that she still had feelings for him, and she wanted to meet up to talk about it. I confronted my husband about it that night, and he admitted that they had been talking, but he swore it was completely innocent. He said he didn't want to tell me because he knew I would overreact, and he didn't want to cause any unnecessary drama. I was hurt and angry, but I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I told him I needed some time to process everything, and he agreed to give me some space. But then a few days later, I found out that he had gone to meet her for coffee. He said it was just to clear the air and make sure she understood that he was happily married, but I couldn't help but feel betrayed. We had a huge fight about it, and things have been tense ever since. I know he didn't actually cheat on me, but the fact that he went behind my back and lied about it really shook my trust in him. And with everything else going on, it just feels like one more thing piled on top of an already stressful situation. To make matters worse, our younger son has been acting out a lot lately. He's always been a handful, but it seems like ever since the incident with my husband's ex, he's been even more difficult than usual. He's been throwing tantrums, refusing to listen, and just generally being a terror. I know he's probably picking up on the tension between me and my husband, but I don't know how to help him. I've been trying to keep things together for the sake of the kids, but it's been really hard. I feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells, trying not to set my husband off or make things worse. And with my business struggling due to the pandemic, I'm starting to feel like I'm failing at everything. I know we need to have a serious talk about our relationship and figure out how to move forward, but I'm honestly scared of what might happen. I love my husband, and I don't want to throw away everything we've built together. But at the same time, I don't know if I can keep living like this. I guess that's where things stand right now. I'm trying to take things one day at a time and focus on being the best mom I can be for my boys. But some days it feels like everything is just falling apart. I know I need to be strong for my family, but I'm not sure how much longer I can keep pretending that everything is okay. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble. It helps to get it all out, even if I don't have any easy answers. I appreciate all of your support and advice, and I promise to keep you updated on how things go from here. My husband plays sick on his day off, expecting me to handle our 3 kids. But I put my foot down and show him what 7 years of my life look like without me picking up the slack. Over the last 7 years, I have been the primary caretaker for my husband's and my 3 children, 7 years old, 5 years old, 2 years old. Through maternity leaves and then working evenings or overnights, I am still the one who does the most childcare and household tasks. Whenever I was staying at home with the kids and was sick, my husband would just go about his routine as normal. He would leave without checking if I would need help for that day. There would be times when I was so ill I needed to call for help, but I would arrange that. Recently, my husband got a job where he gets 1 weekday off. Today is his day off. I am working today and have several meetings and trainings that I need to attend. He has been messaging me nonstop that he is sick. I told him that it's his responsibility to arrange for care since he is the parent at home, as I had done many times when I was home with our children. He has texted me, "What is wrong with you?" several times about me telling him he needs to make his own arrangements. I asked him several times if he had ever asked me if I needed help while sick. He keeps asking what is wrong with me. I don't feel like I am the jerk because this is the same treatment he gives me, but maybe I am. Edit. My husband wasn't always like this. Our first 2 children were pretty equally cared for as well as the house. We used to work opposite shifts to each other, so whoever was home was in charge of the kids and chores. During my 3rd pregnancy, I was extremely ill. It's also when my husband got a challenging physical labor job. With me being off on maternity leave for 18 months, I feel like that's when things really started to slide. When I went back to work, I took evening or overnight shifts at a hospital while he started at 1 p.m. I almost went insane as he would not take the kids in the morning after an overnight and not let me sleep. I would be up all night and all day with them and was losing it. He kept complaining that he really didn't like my overnight job because our youngest would still scream for me in the middle of the night. He mentioned me finding a day job. I said, "Fine, you try to find childcare in the area and after-school care. Let me know when you do." Obviously, he couldn't because wait lists are miles long in our area. I found a remote overnight job, which paid more and was more in line with my interests. That was fine, except the same problems arose of him not respecting the need for sleep after an overnight, even for a couple of hours. The complaints started again, but I love my job and I wasn't going to change it. Then I got laid off. It was a job I really loved, and it really shook me to my core when it happened. I was depressed but still took care of the kids. The house suffered a bit, but I was too tired to do anything. My new job requires day shifts for 3 months, hence why I was working today. At around 2 p.m., I drove home to grab my bank card, as I had promised my oldest we would go shopping after school. I watched in disbelief and amazement as I saw my husband rounding the corner with our 2 youngest on the way to the park, and not the closest one either. So there you have it. He was not dying, he was capable. He may have shoot his brains out this morning, but somehow he was able to persevere. Unfortunately, the little kid saw my van and wanted to come shopping, but we ended up having fun. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. I swear when most men get a cold, they act like the world is ending. Tell him to act like an adult and find help. There's nothing wrong with you. Tell him to grow a pair and act like a parent. I'm sure you've also had to care for a sick child while sick, just like I have. There's no reason he can't do it. Comment 2, take this as a lesson and restructure your roles at home. Since you are both working, hubby needs to pull his weight at home. Don't let him put it all on you. Otherwise, stuff like this will keep happening. Not the idiot. But you are the jerk to yourself if you continue enabling hubby's weaponized incompetence. Now, for the update, hey everyone, thanks so much for all your comments and support on my last post. It's been a hectic month since then, and I've got some updates for you. So about a week after my last post, my husband and I had a huge blowout. He was still fuming about me not rushing home to take care of him when he was sick on his day off. I tried to explain again how I've managed on my own countless times when I was ill and had to look after the kids. But he just wasn't getting it. The argument got heated and we both said some things we probably shouldn't have. I told him I was tired of always being the one to sacrifice my needs for the family, and he accused me of not being a supportive wife. It was a mess. The tension in the house was obvious for days after that. We were barely speaking to each other, just going through the motions of daily life. The kids could sense something was off too. They were more clingy and emotional than usual. About 2 weeks ago, my husband's mom came to visit for a few days. She's always been pretty traditional in her views on marriage and gender roles. Over dinner one night, she started going on about how a wife's duty is to take care of her husband and children, no matter what. I could see my husband nodding along, and it just made my blood boil. I excused myself from the table and went to the bedroom to calm down. Later that night, my husband came to talk to me. He said his mom's words had made him realize some things. He admitted that he'd been taking me for granted and not pulling his weight with the kids and household stuff. He apologized for not being more supportive when I was sick and for expecting me to always put his needs first. I could tell he was being sincere, and it meant a lot to hear him say those things. We had a long talk about how things had gotten so unbalanced between us. I opened up about how overwhelmed and unappreciated I'd been feeling, especially since our 3rd child was born. He listened and acknowledged that he needed to step up more. We agreed to start dividing the childcare and chores more evenly and to make more of an effort to support each other. Since then, things have been better. My husband has been more hands-on with the kids and has taken on more of the housework. He's even started planning some fun family outings for us on his days off. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Looking back, I realize I let things slide for too long. I was so focused on being a good mom and keeping everything together that I didn't speak up for myself. I'm learning to be more assertive and to ask for help when I need it. I'm also trying to make more time for self-care. I've started taking a yoga class once a week, and I'm making an effort to connect with friends more often. It's not easy, but I know I need to take care of myself if I want to be a good partner and parent. So that's where things are at now. It's been a challenging month, but I feel like my husband and I are on a better path. We still have work to do, but we're committed to making our marriage and family life more balanced and fulfilling for both of us. Thanks for reading and for all your support. It means more than you know. My husband's ex-wife turned his kids against me. But when he left town, I showed them who's boss and changed the locks so they couldn't come back. I, 36-year-old female, have been married to my husband, Nick, 42-year-old male, for almost 6 years now. My husband has 2 teenagers with his ex-wife, Lindsay, 40-year-old female, and they have been divorced for 11 years. My stepdaughter is Melody, 15-year-old female, and my stepson is Jace, 13-year-old male. My husband and I also have a 14-month-old son together. Nick and Lindsay have shared custody of my stepkids, and typically they can get along okay-ish. It's not what anyone would call a friendly co-parenting relationship, and both can be stubborn with the other at times. I'd hate to see them forced to sit in a room all day to mediate, but it's not as bad as some divorced people I have seen in my life. My relationship with Lindsay is not good anymore. Around a year into my marriage, she grew annoyed that she and Nick would be harder to reach than me, and I was getting more calls from the kids' school when they were sick or whatever. Jace has some health issues, so it's a common enough thing for him. It made Lindsay extremely jealous, and on her custody time, I would be calling her to try and get the kid who was sick or to make plans with her. But her job made it difficult for her to be reached, hence me being the only one available to pick them up. Once we got to the point where she was jealous, there was no going back. I had hoped during infection 19 and the kids not being in school that it would maybe take care of some of the jealousy, but it didn't. And once she turned against me, so did the kids. We had a close relationship before, and now they don't want that with me. They complain if Nick leaves them with me for a couple of hours or when I pick them up from school. They're not as open and talkative with me. I spoke to them, Nick spoke to them, he spoke to Lindsay, and we even did some family therapy together, but the relationship is not what it was, and it's not what it was becoming before the issues. I bring all this up because recently my husband learned that during his parenting time, he will be out of town for 4 days in May, and those 4 days fall on his parenting time with my stepkids. He wants them to stay with me for the 4 days, so he can see them for a few hours on the day he comes back before they go to their moms. The kids do not want to stay at the house with me during that time. They want to be with their mom. They were pissed he wanted them to stay with me. It started a fight between the three of them, and the kids told Lindsay, and she wants the kids to be with her. But the parenting agreement doesn't have a clause about this. I told Nick he should listen to the kids, and he told me it won't help anything if they refuse to stay in the house with me while he's not there. I told him he better listen to the kids because I'll be the one facing the repercussions of him not doing so. He told me I should want the kids with me, and I told him not when I'll be dealing with their anger and disrespect while he's gone. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. The whole point of a custody agreement is so the kids get to spend time with each of their parents. Your husband is a selfish jerk. How often during your own custody times does he actually have one-on-one time with the kids? Or does he absolutely insist you all have to do things together as a family? Not the idiot for wanting to do what's best for the kids, but I'm worried there's a whole dynamic you're oblivious to that's been tainting the kids' perception of their time with you, and it's not just their mother. If dad doesn't care enough to actually spend time with his kids and leaves the parenting to someone else, little wonder they don't want to come over as much. Comment 2. At the risk of being a jerk, I highly recommend having yourself removed from the school's contact list as well. You've been doing mom and dad favors all these years, and it has gone unappreciated. Sure, it sucks for the kids to be stuck at school when they are unwell, but they and their parents are old enough to know that behavior has consequences. Let the parents figure their own shit out while you focus on your baby. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. It's been a tough few days since then, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been going on. So after my last post, Nick and I had a long talk about the situation with the kids staying with me while he's out of town. He was really adamant about them staying with me, saying that it was important for us to maintain the custody agreement and not give in to the kids' demands. I tried to explain to him that I was worried about the backlash I would face from the kids and Lindsay, but he just didn't seem to get it. The next day, Nick sat down with Melody and Jace to tell them the plan. As expected, they were furious. Melody started crying and screaming at Nick, saying that he was being unfair and that she hated him. Jace just sat there with his arms crossed, refusing to even look at his dad. It was heartbreaking to watch, but Nick stood his ground. Later that day, Lindsay called Nick, and they got into a huge argument over the phone. She accused him of putting his own needs above the kids and said that he was being selfish. Nick fired back, saying that she was just jealous of me and that she needed to respect the custody agreement. It was a mess. Over the next few days, things just got worse. Melody and Jace barely spoke to me or Nick, and when they did, it was only to complain or argue. I tried my best to be patient and understanding, but it was really taking a toll on me emotionally. I felt like I was walking on eggshells in my own home, never knowing when one of the kids was going to lash out at me. One night, after a particularly bad argument with Melody, I broke down in tears. I just couldn't take it anymore. Nick found me crying in our bedroom and tried to comfort me, but I pushed him away. I told him that I couldn't do this anymore, that I felt like I was losing myself in all the drama and conflict. Nick was quiet for a long time after that. I think he finally realized how much this was affecting me. He apologized for not listening to my concerns earlier and said that he would talk to the kids again. The next day, Nick sat down with Melody and Jace and had a heart-to-heart with them. He told them that he understood how they felt, but that he needed them to respect me in our home. He also said that he would talk to Lindsay about finding a compromise that worked for everyone. In the end, they agreed that the kids would stay with Lindsay for 2 of the 4 days and with me for the other 2. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than nothing. Looking back, I realized that a lot of this conflict stems from deeper issues in our family. Nick and Lindsay's divorce was really hard on the kids, and I think they've always struggled with feeling like they have to choose between their parents. And as much as I've tried to be a positive presence in their lives, I know that I can never replace their mom. I also think that Nick and I need to work on our communication and co-parenting skills. We can't just assume that the other person knows what we're thinking or feeling. We need to be more open and honest with each other, even when it's hard. Anyway, that's where things stand now. It's not perfect, but we're taking it one day at a time. Thanks again for all your support and advice. It really means a lot to me. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.